Well, this is a discussion item for the board. It was put on at the request of a parent and board members that we should discuss this item. It's been our longstanding practice to include immunizations on the transcripts. Our student information system has it embedded on the transcript, and our student information system is used by over 400 or 500 districts in the state of California. So it is a common practice to have immunizations on the transcripts, because when students transfer from even school district to school district or into college, those proof of immunizations are usually required or requested. So it's a convenience that we've afforded our parents, and we're happy to discuss the ramifications of that. We did seek legal counsel at the board's request, and according to our attorney, we are within our legal parameters because parents and or a student of 18 signs the request to release the transcript.
Do we have any board questions before we open this up to the public? We do have a number of people here who would like to speak on this item. So I'm going to start with Jacqueline Murphy. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to address the school board. I'm a registered nurse. I am the mother of 3, the last of whom is severely autistic and has had a vaccine injury. We have also participated in research at the Mind Institute for 8 years. I would like to address the fact that this is really medical information about an individual, and I can speak to my experience, and this isn't an anti-vaccine or pro-vaccine issue. For my family, my children were fully vaccinated. I vaccinated children. I took care of people across the lifespan. I worked in med-surg and labor and delivery, so I gave those vaccines. However, as time has marched on, we have found out that my son has a genetic variant that has caused him to have a primary immunodeficiency. And unfortunately, when he was vaccinated, he regressed and he lost all his language and had gone autoimmune. And we have this documented in medical labs and workups with him. Unfortunately, he was one of the children or individuals who could not handle that insult on his immune system. For his purposes, I personally would not like to see his vaccine information on his record. I did not like going into the office to get his information in his cumulative file and see that information within that cumulative file, that anyone, even, I don't know to whom you give access to this information, but this can be a pretty heated debate, even between parents within the school district. People have a lot of opinions about vaccines, and that kind of information should be between the parents and the physician. We put a lot of thought into how we wanted to proceed with our child. We have the evidence to back up the fact that he cannot tolerate those kinds of insults on the immune system. And I'm coming to you as a parent who has been discriminated against because of our choices. I've been approached by social workers, teachers, ABA therapists, having opinions about the decisions we've made to not continue to vaccinate our child. And I don't think that these are records that should be made privy to staff and personnel, and I don't think they should be on a transcript.
Thank you. And I think it might help if you can, Superintendent, advise who has access to the information that's on that transcript.
That was the question that Jen asked me to speak tonight. We're both registered nurses. I'm pretty stunned that this medical information is so available to people. We had to follow very strict guidelines within, and I understand you're within your legal rights.
It's not available to all staff members.
Okay.
It's available to the nurse, the health assistant, and the registrar. It is not available to teachers. It's it's just not readily available.
So if somebody were to grab the cumulative file, the hard copy
They
within the
can't
office.
just grab it. So
Okay,
you
how,
need
how
to-
would someone get access to something like
The
that?
CUE file is kept in a locked cabinet in the office, usually behind the secretary.
Okay.
And so
Because I
they-
did have to go get my son's file. He
Yes.
got sent to another school.
Sure.
And there were 8 people in there, and I don't know who it was, but they went and grabbed his file, and I opened it up, and there was his vaccine
Okay, so I
record.
think we're getting off, so is the transcript in the CUE file?
No, but the
Okay.
immunizations
Then
are
we're
in the.
getting, then
yeah.
we're getting off the issue of
Correct.
having it
Right.
on the transcript.
Okay.
Okay.
So I
Immunizations-
guess as a nurse and a mom, for that particular issue on the transcript, I think it is quite a bit of medical information to be giving to people who may not be able to use it correctly.
Okay,
Thank you.
Very good. Jessica Alpin?
Can we?
And I didn't say this before we started, but please try, if you can, to keep your comments to 3 minutes, and if your point has been made in the previous, try to just acknowledge that, but thank you.
Can we change the order
Sure.
of people? Is that a, I'm sorry to interrupt.
I'm sorry?
Is it possible to change the order?
Who
Is
would
it
like
pos,
to- who
is
would
it
like to
possible
speak?
for me to go first?
Yes, you can.
Okay, or next. Thank you for
Okay.
accommodating that. Sorry, I didn't.
My name's Jennifer DeLuggage, and I was here on June 2nd. As Jackie said, I'm also a registered nurse. I'm also a mother of three kids in this district. And I spoke at public comment on June 2nd. I wanted to thank the board and the superintendent for considering my concerns, our concerns, and for proposing a solution with the opt-out and for adding it as an agenda item to discuss. I really appreciate that. I still have a lot of questions and concerns with the opt-out, if it's an adequate resolution to the issues that were raised. So I'm not sure if it goes far enough. It doesn't go far enough for my preference, but it is a step in the right direction, and I'm very grateful for that. So I did do some research myself, and I did speak with a couple of attorneys as well. I didn't hire someone because it's very expensive to do extensive research on it, but I did get some information, and there are legal questions beyond what was addressed in the letter that I saw that was from the district attorneys. There's California Education Code, California Medical Privacy Laws. There are other things, and I did find some things in the Education Code that I thought were interesting. It talks about people at the school site having a legitimate educational interest in the vaccine history, and so I'm glad that you answered some of those questions about who has access, because my daughter received a transcript at school from a counselor advising her on what classes to take the next year. So to me, that doesn't seem like that counselor had any educational interest in that vaccine history to recommend what classes. So that was a question I had, is who at the school site really has a legitimate educational interest in looking at that information. So not only sending it out, but also at the school site. And is that being taken care of properly if these records are on the transcript like that? And then also I'm wondering with the opt-out, like, is this a permanent opt-out if we opt out, or does it need to be renewed? And how often does it need to be renewed? And does it apply to transcripts that are sent to, is it only applying to the transcripts that are sent to other third-party places, or does it apply to transcripts that are printed out within the school, like the example I gave of my daughter meeting with her counselor? And are you timing me at all? Because I don't know how long that I've been, and I was just gonna give them like my stuff to do whatever I miss, but
Okay, I'm gonna say you have about a minute.
okay. I'm just telling you I didn't time myself, and now with the passage of SB 277, we no longer have a personal belief exemption. So once all the grandfather clauses are done, everyone that doesn't have all their vaccines will have a medical exemption, which often has even more sensitive private medical information on it. So how is that going to change the way these records are kept and transmitted? And is that information going to also be, on a transcript if it's included on an academic transcript? So, and then also, I'm wondering, it said that there was some graduation requirement information that wouldn't be on the opt-out transcript. So I would be interested to know, like, what are the disadvantages of not having that information on there? I'm not totally sure what that is. I can't find my daughter's transcript. She's out of town and I didn't want to go through her room, but so I'm wondering if that really makes a difference if that's not on there. And if the opt-out transcript looks different from the other transcript, is that really giving us that much privacy? Like if we were talking about HIV status and you said, well, if you don't want it on there, we won't put it on yours. It's like still kind of a flag when you have something that is different. So I think that covers, most of my concerns. I know some other people had some ideas, and I know Teresa Stanley had offered the idea of the opt-in, as another option as well. But I don't see I know that it's a convenience for certain situations. Oh, I know what the other thing I wanted to say is just registering for colleges is different from applying to college. When someone's looking at your college application, what is the educational interest in looking at your vaccination history? So I don't think there is one. So anyway, thank you so much for your time and for considering this issue. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, who wants to speak next?
Yeah.
Jessica? Welcome, thank you.
Hello, my name is Jessica Elko. I really don't have a whole lot more to add. I just wanted to be here in support of Jen and what she was sharing. And as a credentialed science teacher, as a resident of Folsom, and as a parent of 2 children who are both under a medical exemption, I just ask that you would also consider the discrimination that some students might face if certain people saw that they haven't been vaccinated. It's an emotional issue for me because my own family has discriminated against me and friends as well because they don't understand the sensitivity of the issue. So I just want to thank you for considering the option and for your time tonight.
Thank you. Could I ask that a couple of you that have mentioned discrimination, if that is happening in our district, I want to know about it with our employees. So please don't accept it. You come to me.
Okay.
Okay? Not acceptable. Thank you. Emily or Michael?
I'll go.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Good evening, board. My name is Michael Deeds, I live in Rancho Cordova. I have 2 small children, the oldest of which is 3.5, so not in your district yet, but soon. And I did have a few comments and concerns about the vaccination records on the transcripts to follow up with the ladies here. And I'm grateful for the opt-out provision being added. That's a huge plus, for sure. And I was looking over the last meeting, and it was decided that the opt-out would be included, and then it would be printed in the handbook, parent handbook, that you have the option to opt out, basically. And that's great. I'm wondering if the parent handbooks, do they come out every year? Do just freshman parents get them every year? Oh, okay, that's great. So kids who are already in the system, their parents have the option. Okay, wonderful. Also, I think Jen touched on this, is the opt-out a one-time thing and then it's permanent until further notice? Well, okay. One question I had, I was wondering if the vaccination records transcripts generally, I assume, 1 or 2 pages, and there might be a block on there for vaccination record or something. And if that's omitted, as we've covered, maybe that could be a flag of some kind. I'm wondering, and I understand there's a separate system that prints these things and prepares them, and many districts use them, and so maybe there's a bigger issue here that needs to be fleshed out. But I'm wondering if the vaccination records can be printed on a separate page so that if someone opts out, there isn't a glaring hole on the transcript for someone who might want to make a decision that they shouldn't about someone's vaccination record to go, oh, well, they didn't include them, there must be something fishy there. Not everyone does that. I'm not saying that's a given, but it's a possibility. And so if it were on a second page, then it wouldn't be such a glaring problem. There would just be a second page with immunization records. If the parent opted out, then there just wouldn't be a second page. There would be a big old hole where that would be. Anyways, those were the only concerns I had, and I thank the board for their time. Thank you.
Thank you for being involved in your child's education so early.
Gotta get started early.
Emily?
Thank you, board members, superintendent. So some of you know me. I'm a longtime Folsom resident and member of the community. I don't have much else to add. My perspective echoes the sentiments that we've heard this evening and some of the points raised. I did want to mention that we brought with us a letter signed by 32 local parents who would appreciate seeing some additional steps being taken on this issue to further safeguard students' privacy in this district. But other than that, I just wanted to thank the board for adding this to the agenda and providing that opt-out so quickly when this issue was raised, and for your diligence in pursuing this further. We definitely appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And you've given me some additional things that we'll go back and check. I know I can say that the medical exemption will not be on the transcript. There's not a place for that. What I don't know is exactly what the standard transcript looks like compared to the one that has no immunizations on it, because this is just a recent item. And so I'll ask Ms. Alleman to pull a couple of examples for me, so that we can take. It's just that, but I don't know what.
It's on the bottom right.
Yeah, but I knew that, but I don't know the customized one that we would have to create, how much different it would look than this. And then the question about the local graduation requirement, this district has a new requirement starting in 2017 for differentiated instruction, meaning you can take an online class or an AP class. There are certain things that you have option to take, and we want you to take one of these several options. That just would not be noted on the transcript. It's not indicative that you haven't done it for graduation or anything like that. It's just a matter of for our own in-house tracking purposes. It's not anything that colleges would need or anything like that. So to have it not be on the customized transcript would be fine.
And Superintendent, I'd like clarification on something too, because I seem to remember, and this might be prior to when this was added to transcripts, but I seem to recall maybe junior or senior year, every student receiving a copy of their transcripts from the counselor's office. Just saying that those are printed at the beginning of every year, and how that works.
And we'll go back and check on that, and maybe when we do those in mass like that, maybe we go with this customized one that doesn't have the immunization on it, so that they're not floating around.
Do we have any board questions, comments? Ms. Aquino?
First of all, thank you for bringing this to our attention, because I had never seen a transcript from this district. I didn't have a reason to, but I did have my daughter's transcript pulled so I could see exactly what we're talking about. And I want to be clear, first of all, to me this is not an anti-vax or a vaccine thing. Let's say for a second we said we weren't putting vaccine information on the transcripts, but we were putting blood type. Okay, that's just as an example. To me, this is just falls under the umbrella of personal health information. You know, I have kind of that libertarian streak in me where I would always choose an opt-in version rather than an opt-out version. And I looked at the Folsom High, the Vista, the Cordova High website, and in order to have a transcript generated, it seems like all those high schools, you have to fill out a request. Folsom High is an online request, which is very slick, by the way. I wish the other high schools would go to it. Vista's is here. It's a transcript request form. They want the date, the student name, the contact phone number, date of birth, current grade, if graduated, what year you graduated. Do you need an official or an unofficial transcript? Do you want it picked up? Do you want it mailed? Sign it, all that sort of stuff. It seems to me that it would be very easy on this form to just add one more line. Would you like us to include your immunization records, yes or no? I can tell you from me personally, I probably would check yes. It's a convenience thing, I think it is a nice service. And maybe that saves me a step, I don't have to go to the pediatrician's office to get a copy, you know, or whatever. But to me, this is somebody's personal health information, and some people are very sensitive about that. And again, it's not a vaccine thing, you know, put in blood type or whatever. And again, I tend to compare things to my own industry, and I know it's not apples to apples, but if somebody names me as their insurance agent, and they call me, you know, they've been my client for 20 years, they say, Sarah, I'm having trouble getting this claim paid, can you call Anthem for me? And I call Anthem and they say, well, I can see you're the agent, but I can't talk to you about this claim unless you have this HIPAA authorization. So then I gotta get the client to fill out the HIPAA authorization, you know? And is it good for a month? Is it good for a year? Is it good indefinitely? Whatever. So I'm not comfortable with an opt-out. I do think we need to have an opt-in. And again, since there is a form to do the transcript in the first place, I think this is just a really easy fix.
Thank you, Mr. Short.
I just want to echo what you were saying too. I think this quick solution is to go back and reformat and provide those options for folks. So I think just probably come back and make sure we're not discriminating or providing these personal medical information, because I feel the same way. It's like under the HIPAA regulations, there's a different regulation that we're not violating, but HIPAA is a little bit different, so I agree with that.
I'm gonna get Ms. Stanley's comments, and I do have one quick question. So we just recently started using this form over the last couple of years when we added the vaccination? That was always, okay.
With the form, you mean transcript?
The transcript.
The transcript has been that way for years.
Okay. Ms. Stanley's comments? I don't care if it's legal to do. Now, she probably would have said this much better than me. We should have an opt-out instead of an we should have an opt-in set up instead of an opt-out one. Should be an easy call to put a check the box on the transcript request form. I'd support bringing it back for action.
So rather than an opt-in or an opt-out, why doesn't the form just say, include transcripts, yes, immunizations, yes, include immunizations, no, and have both there? Because it's just.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be good.
That's an
Logistically,
That is
whatever
an opt-in.
easiest to implement.
And maybe one time you want them and you press yes, and one time you request them and you say no, you know?
And you know, the UCs and state universities are collecting immunizations now. When you fill out an application online, most of the time you're entering your transcript information and not sending transcripts until you officially move forward. But still, I agree with the opt-in option. If we can find a way to.
Well, staff will take a look at it, and we hear the board's direction, and we'll let you know if there are any problems.
And the side note, if we could get Cordova High and Vista to do it online, I mean, it is
Yeah.
slick the way Folsom High has it. It's just easy and.
Yeah, where's our?
Is there any further questions, comments from okay, since it's a discussion only item, staff has their direction.
Right, we don't need board action.
Okay.
This is administrative, easy.
Okay,